let me just summarize what you've done, and you correct me if I'm wrong. You basically decided that Sargon was not the right sort for UKIP, and you went and created a video that used only his words, taken in full context, as to what sort of man he was and the potential danger that he was to the UKIP party. And you went and showed this video to all of the upper echelons of the party, and you've circulated it widely in the party, and it is being circulated as of right now. And so basically, you are declaring that you think that Sargon of Akkad should not be a part of your party, and that you want him declared persona non grata in UKIP. Is that an accurate
Yes,
assessment?
yes, but I'd like to add on just to emphasize the point. I deliberately included as much context as was appropriate, precisely because I don't want to lie about this man. If I didn't think he was a threat to the party, I wouldn't do anything.
Hello, this is the Coach and Benway podcast. I'm Coach Red Pill. I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Benway, and we are joined today by a very special guest. This is Mauritian Struggle. Mauritian Struggle is, of course, a YouTuber who has a relatively small channel, but he's quite well known among a lot of different circles, and he is a fairly prominent individual in the UKIP party, the United Kingdom Independence Party. And he's graciously agreed to join us in a conversation about all things UKIP and the current kerfuffle going on insofar as new members are concerned. So, Mauritian, welcome, and it's a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for allowing me to be on, Coach.
So, Dr. Benway, I know you're the big brains of this operation, so why don't you start grilling our young guest and showing him that, who's the big brain?
Exactly. Even though I'm sure a lot of people know what the situation in UKIP is going on, I just want to get, without any unbiased view, like kind of what's going on from your side. What was your take from this as this thing starts exploding, and why you decided to have a role in it?
Yeah, okay. So I'll give it as unbiased as I can, at least in the initial description. So I think it's now about 8 days ago, I believe it was the 16th of June, 3 people joined UKIP and brought a large proportion of their audience along with them. These 3 people being Paul Joseph Watson, Count Dankula, and Sargon of Akkad. And when these people joined, they joined rather close together, and this made me suspicious, not to mention the fact that I already knew of Sargon and Dankula, and they don't, frankly, they're not exactly good optics material, so I was a little bit worried by that. Now, over time, they've established connections with people within the party. They met Gerard Batten, our leader, yesterday, and have tried to establish other connections as well, including myself, in fact. So is that as much of a rundown that you want? Like just a basic one?
Yeah, sure. And I think so part of what I'm kind of getting at and kind of curious of, and as you said, there's a certain optics with these guys coming into UKIP and what that's going to potentially mean for the future of the party and also the electability of the party. Let's kind of like back up before that, before the whole idea of them even coming into the party. Kind of what would you say was the general status and health of UKIP, and why is it at this crossroads where such an event could potentially happen?
Well, we've had an interesting few months with the UKIP. We lost Henry Bolton, of course, in a scandal involving a younger woman who he was dating while married to his wife with 3 kids. And it wasn't actually that wound people up. It was, in fact, the fact that the woman was racist in comments. Now, I voted to remove the guy because he's awful optics, and I don't really like the morals that are going on there, as I'm sure you guys can understand. So he went, and we kind of started to hemorrhage members quite a bit. And we'd already been kind of declining a little bit before that. So we lost a couple of members to some little parties. The ones that strike me at the moment are actually Henry Bolton's Breakoff Party, One Nation, and another one called the Foundation. These parties are probably going to fold back into the UKIP, but they are currently kind of off in the distance. Now, this kind of changed when Gerard Batten became the leader. he was originally interim leader after Henry Bolton was kicked out of the party, but he became the actual leader rather recently. And having met the man, I'm very optimistic, and we're starting to stabilize things out. We're, for example, accepting members much quicker than we were either under Bolton or while Gerard was the interim leader. I recall I signed up for UKIP actually under Gerard, and it took me 6 weeks to get my membership card. Now, from what I can tell with Sargon, it's taking him about a week. Now, that just goes to show the bureaucratic, the bureaucratic machine working. So we're kind of on the up and up, but the thing is we're still relatively unstable because we still have to recover all of these little parties. And then we get Sargon hit, and I was kind of afraid that this would knock us off balance.
Right, and just to be clear, yeah, I think, like, even though this is an oversimplification of UKIP, I'm sure there are folks like me who largely associate UKIP with the desire to remove Britain from the EU to regain national sovereignty on some level. And even though clearly that's still a work in progress, I think some people think, well, we kind of started the groundwork from that. The motions are, whether done well or indifferent, are kind of there. So what is the focus of UKIP if that's kind of already in process of being accomplished? That's an ungenerous reading. I just want to give you a chance to respond to that.
Well, what Gerard himself has said is he wants to make the party a little bit further right than it once was. And I think he means in more of a sense of social conservatism. I think he wants to make the party just genuinely right-wing, especially to oppose all of this insanity, frankly, that's going on in this country, to be the one option that actually, brings people back together, because the country is in kind of chaos at the moment, as I'm sure people who watch this podcast can actually tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Would it be fair to say that UKIP is trying to position itself as a party to the right that would be a home for potentially dissatisfied and disenfranchised Tory members? Because the Tory party, the Conservative Party, it's conservative in name only because a lot of its policies are frankly laborious, almost laborite, and certainly Theresa May's government has proven itself to be incompetent. They couldn't win the damn election, and her policies seem to be, no real Brexit. I mean, it's the Brexit that keeps getting postponed and shuffled along, and not a top priority. So, is it fair to say that that Gerard wants to make UKIP the home for true conservatism in the United Kingdom?
I mean, it certainly worked for me. Yes, I'd say to an extent he does. However, I don't think that's in really an economic way. I mean, the UKIP has always been, at least after the very, very start, a working class party in a lot of ways. Although we've been libertarian often in our economic policy, we have tended to have appeased the working class voter, the disenfranchised working class. Although we, of course, have, I mean, in my own case, it appeals very strongly to traditional conservatives as well. So I'd say yes to an extent, but we predominantly focus on the working class.
And yeah, that's kind of there's method to the madness as to why I am asking this, because as naturally, this is, I think people know that Sargon, Paul Joseph Watson, Count Dankula wanting to join UKIP for various reasons. I'd let them articulate their reasons. But the party you're describing that's being built, true social conservatism, at least an attempt to gain that kind of true right-wing solution relative to the general consensus, seems at odds with all three of them. Yes, each of in their own ways has some element that I guess you could call conservatism, I guess you could call somewhat nationalism, but they're all variations on liberal to some regard, broadly defined. So it seems to me that regardless of their personal optics, they're not even in line with the party.
Yeah, I think Paul Joseph Watson is fine. I think he's very good at his job, and I think he just about nails what people want to see, what the party wants to appeal to, at least with the youth. However, with Sargon, I'd say, okay, let me put this in decent terms. I mean, the party itself doesn't really have a consensus, although it is indeed very much more on the right, on the hard right. I mean, that's what Gerard wants. That's what other members like David Curtin have said they want. But there's still some members who are like socially, like social democrat kind of people. Not many social liberals that I've noticed. In fact, I've yet to meet a single social liberal within the party. At least in contemporary terms, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I'd say that Paul Joseph Watson would probably fit in quite well within the party. However, people like Sargon is at least like getting the gist of the party. I'd say Sargon is far, far too socially liberal, and he's also exceptionally anti-religious, which is just not our thing.
So that's actually something I did not know. The party is actually religious friendly.
Yes, I mean, one of our biggest members, David Curtin, as I mentioned before, is a avowed Christian. I am a traditional Catholic myself, and I get on just fine. Now, I'm not saying that it's a requirement, and it most certainly isn't, but there are a lot of religious people within the party, predominantly Christians.
Gotcha. And so this then becomes the compelling $1 million question. With a party that's trying to go into one direction, and basically you have entryism, right? People trying to use UKIP for whatever political reasons they want. Why is this even possible to a certain extent? What's compelling the situation to make people say, hey, tell these guys to get, ordinarily I'd say tell these guys to get the fuck out. That's not necessarily what's happening so easily. So, why is this estuary position between the two different worlds actually, melding together?
So you're asking why are Sargon and Dankula getting involved with the party, basically?
And why is the party actually seemingly, at least as far as we can tell, giving them at least momentary credence to that idea?
Well, I think it's because they see that these people bring in a lot of money, and we need that at the moment, of course, to grow our voter base. They bring in a lot of money with the new members. And I also think it's because, at least until today, the leadership didn't quite know what was going on with certain people.
So what's magical about today, if you're able to discuss? I mean, I'm assuming it's partly as the personal optics and everything.
I mean, I'm able to discuss it. Today I met with Gerard Batten and David Curtin and a bunch of other people, including a couple of UKIP councillors, in a pub setting, and I produced a video showing a lot of the things that specifically Sargon and his group have said, and I've shown that to them, and I'm basically making the case that these people are not suitable for the party, not only in their policy specific. I mean, I'll get onto that later on. I'm sure you guys have a relatively good idea of what's in the video, but also
it's linked in the description below if you want to check it out.
Yeah, not only in that way, but also the fact that they seem to be joining the party for rather malicious and self-important reasons.
Why would you describe it as malicious and self-important? If you could expand on that, please.
Well, I mean, they don't really give a toss about the party. They just want to buttress their own position. At least in Sargon's case, that seems to be the case.
Mm-hmm. So you're basically saying that he's brigading your party for the purposes of self-aggrandizement?
Yes, and I've got proof as such.
Which is the proof?
Well, I mean, Sargon openly in the video talks about subverting and infiltrating the party, which doesn't sound like somebody who's joining a party in good faith. I think you'll agree.
Where did he say that, by the way? I know it, but just for our audience's sake.
Well, within the video that he's linked in the description, I think it's roughly 2.5 minutes inside the video. I mean, you can.
Yeah, no, but where did he publicly say this?
Oh, yeah. He said that in an interview with Kevin Logan on his live stream channel in front of, at this point, I think 90,000 people.
So in front of 90,000 people, he openly said that he planned to infiltrate the UKIP party. What was that? What was the term? Infiltrate and what else?
Well, subvert.
Subvert, right? Infiltrate.
That's some real Yuri Bezmenov kind of stuff.
So he this master manipulation, this secret plan was spoken of in front of 90,000 viewers.
And just to put things into perspective, if you know, how many members are actively in the UKIP as of now before Sargon brought in his people?
I think it's around 23,000.
I do believe
So
so.
so pretty much 4+ times. He said to 4+ times as many people as he's trying to convince that he's going to be doing this. Yeah, that's intelligent optics there, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly, I mean, he's graduated from Oxford with a degree in espionage right there.
So why exactly is UKIP? What's UKIP's position insofar as Sargon's membership is?
Well, he's currently still a member, but I can tell you for a fact that the leadership were not happy with what they saw because I showed them the video below.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I showed one guy, David Curtin, about half of it, and he actually, I went off to go grab a beer, and he took the earplugs out and said to me, "I don't need to see any more of this." And he said he was exceptionally unhappy with Sargon, and he said that if Sargon was right there, he'd have a really big argument with him, and that what he was saying was unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And was that like I'm assuming it's above and beyond policy at a certain point. Like this is just now getting into almost like you said, optics or whatever, personal matters.
I mean, go and watch the video for yourselves.
Yeah,
I mean,
get it, yeah.
the guy clearly reckons himself rotten, and he has no reason to reckon himself rotten. He just joined like 3 or 4 days ago, at least in the context of this video. It might not even been that. I think it might have been 2 days. And he's already talking about how he's going to change the party and how he's going to be leader and what he's going to do with the manifesto, even though, first of all, it takes 5 years to actually stand as part of the really high up parts of UKIP, which is kind of a silly oversight on his part, to say the least. But also, do you see the problem? I mean, he just randomly walks in here and he thinks he's like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's imagine this to me. I've listened to the clip and everything, and it's an example to me of someone who's never actually had a real job interview. Because you don't go into a job interview saying, "I'm the biggest, baddest motherfucker here, and I know how to do things. I'll tell you how to do your job." There's a certain degree to which you tell people it's like, I think this is a good opportunity or not, but you don't come in and say, I'm the next CEO.
I mean,
let me tell you.
Yeah. I mean, so far as I'm aware, before he did this whole YouTube thing where he managed to ruin the Keck meme, before he did that, he worked mostly warehouse jobs, I think, and he dropped out of university after his first year, which, honestly, considering the standard, I think it was exceptionally difficult to do. I'll say that.
Getting back to this situation here, I mean, the optics of Sargon are pretty bad. In the past 6 months, he's said some fairly horrifying things on a political level. I mean, things that if they came out in the mainstream media, well, he himself would be crucified, but the party he's associated with would be severely damaged. I mean, what upside is there, apart from the members, what upside is there for UKIP to allow him to join?
I don't actually know. I think maybe, I mean, one extra ego, I suppose, but I don't see anything beyond that, really.
Well, is there, because this is the something I'm trying to wrap my head around, is the degree to which the potential people Sargon can bring in are more valuable than Sargon himself. By the, it's like, is there a way, what's the, because it sounds like that's the conundrum, right? There's the financial conundrum, but there's also just bodies on the ground, people who could conceivably get shit done. And is there a question of saying like, well, perhaps by virtue of Sargon doing this thing, of Dankula doing his thing, so on and so forth, even though they may not be ideal party members, yet people who follow them may actually will be, good party members. And is there that kind of mentality going on where you're trying to kind of square those two situations, like, let's get the members without the heads?
I mean, I can certainly see there being a lot of very good potential members within their audiences. However, one of the problems that I actually brought up to Sargon when I talked to him in private was that I have a serious problem with a lot of the decorum with his fans. For example, I actually went to one of his meetups last year and I saw many people, and I'm not exactly a small man. I'm 6'2" and built like a fucking truck, right? frankly, and
Yeah,
I'm not. And I'm not.
I've
And
met
I'm not.
Mauritian in real life. It's true.
And I'm not skinny. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of it. I'm a lot less bad than I used to be, at least as like a school, but I'm still not exactly thin. And I was thinner than about 60 to 70% of the people there. And I mean, I'll just give you an example. I think I'll educate. I think I'll articulate the point rather well with this. So at a certain point, a man called V showed up, who's a Romanian, and he's kind of semi-famous. He's very close with Sargon. He seems like a decent fellow, honestly. But when he shows up, the entire crowd, besides me and a couple of friends, they they do this yell. Bear in mind, this is in the middle of central London. We're surrounded by people, families out on nights, on days out, even. Like it's a Saturday, I think it was, and everyone reads really loudly. They read exceptionally loudly for about 3 minutes. And naturally, being a sane human being,
Right.
I am in the middle of I literally physically cringe. Like I actually like it's so embarrassing. People in the park, like thousands of people, are looking at this crowd of obese to morbidly obese men who aren't shaved and aren't washed, making a resound because a Romanian showed up to the meetup. Now, I think I've pretty much articulated the problem of decorum within that movement. I think you'd agree.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of what's that party who always like fields candidates who are dressed up in like ridiculous clothing to the elections in the UK. I forget their name.
I think it's the Monster Roving Loony Party.
Yeah, it's basically guys like that, but they're not wearing costumes.
I mean, it's. I mean, I'm sure that at university you couldn't get enough mushrooms to make the students act like that, like on that kind of level.
Let me ask you something more serious, though. I heard reports that at least one of the UKIP members of the House of Lords, they have three, I believe, at least one of them was going to resign if Sargon continued in UKIP. Is that accurate?
I have a source, and he seems to be reliable, but I'm not sure I can confirm or deny that because
Okay.
it's not absolutely 100% certain.
Okay, but there is some credence to this rumor then.
I trust the man, I'll say that, but not so much that I commit to that statement.
Okay. So potentially, if Sargon were to continue in UKIP, UKIP would suffer more defections. More people
Well,
would leave.
Yeah, we currently have 3 lords in the House of Lords, and if this is true, we would have 2, and that's not good.
Certainly not. And potentially only one, if it's true that it might be more than one.
Yeah, I can't speak for that though.
Okay. Now, this is very delicate because this is an ongoing situation, so we don't really know what's going to happen, right? But would it be fair to say that with the statements so far, because you were the one who created this video, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And what was your rationale for creating this video?
Well, I spent a long time after talking to Sargon, and after realizing how much of a problem this would be, constructing a dossier. And I realized that where I was going, it wouldn't necessarily be the best. It was an indiscreet thing. I couldn't just walk in there with a dossier. So me and a friend, actually a couple of friends, spent maybe 10 hours constructing this video because I figured it would be a really good way of basically proving my point to everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and again, it's you're talking about public videos that are contemporarily describing the situation at hand, right? It's not like you had like a private conversation and it's like, okay, I'm going to release this shit. It's stuff that it's publicly happening as we speak, literally.
Yeah, you can go and find them. I've linked all of the sources in the description. Although I'm aware, actually, that in the very very last one, the video by Lucy Brown, she actually deleted the tweet. And I mean, if you watch it, you can see why, but it doesn't matter because someone else, in fact, from the woman presenting it, tweeted it out anyway. So
Yeah.
you can still find it on her Twitter feed, at least
Well,
And
the
I
very
think,
fact of its existence proves that it was created by them. So it's, even though the tweet where it first appeared is gone, the actual video is still in circulation and is reproduced. So it's out there, and it's not it's the genie's out of the bottle. But what's interesting to me about those ads, the Dankula ad and the Lucy Brown ad, is the tone of them, both of them, is like they no longer know how to speak to normal people. They can only speak in not English. They speak in shitpost. That is their language, because it sounds. The both ads seem as if they are mocking UKIP. That's the impression I got. Benway, I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean that the two phrases come to mind. It's well, one in particular that's like UKIP because fuck it.
Yeah.
That's a general attitude of frankly contempt.
Mhm.
One or two, it's like this party's so bad we can do what we will, and that if you still believe in the party, as whatever its path it is on, I don't see how you can treat that as anything other than someone just coming into your sandbox and saying we're taking over now.
Mm.
it's just ridiculous. Why would anybody do that? Why would any serious person do that to a political movement? I found it actually exceptionally insulting because I honestly, and I think everyone else within the party, at least the serious members, can agree that we see UKIP as the only solution to many of the UK's current problems. And I think to have a bunch of amateurs belittle us it's frankly A, insulting, and it B, just undermines their own intelligence because, like I said in the video, these people are really closely associated to the guy who will apparently change things when he's leader.
Yeah, because
So
the conversation with Kevin Logan, he's basically saying that he's going to change everything, and it's going to be in his image. That seems pretty arrogant. I mean, especially when you're going to a party that you don't really know anybody in the party, you don't even know the tenets of the party, and you admit in that live stream that you don't know the tenets of the party when some particular issues are brought up, and then you say that, well, I don't like those, so I'm going to change them
well, it's not
unilaterally.
even that. It's just the exceptional arrogance towards religious communities in this country as well.
Yeah.
I mean, insisting that, I mean, this isn't actually in the video, this is in the stream, but insisting that we translate everything into English in all religious ceremonies when you can't even name the religious ceremonies you want to convert. I mean, this is embarrassing stuff. It's damning stuff.
Yeah. Are we going to have to sing the Te Deum in English? What the hell? I,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
it just seemed absurd, absurdly arrogant, and short-sighted, and completely unaware of the realities. It's the ultimate Dunning-Kruger effect of somebody who knows absolutely nothing about a given situation, thinking that he's an expert. It seemed
yeah.
rather.
Oh, it's my favorite hypocrisy actually in that video. He's so in favor of freedom of speech, yet if a Jew calls their holiday Yom Kippur, it's not allowed because it isn't in English. It's it's just ridiculous. It's like it's freedom of speech when he wants it, and we cannot accept that because we do stand for freedom of speech absolutely for all people within this country.
Mm, mm, okay.
Well, I mean, it's clear because he's from the skeptic community. He has consistently maintained an anti-religious stance. I mean, to that regard, at least he's sincere on that front. But the idea that's kind of why I also wanted to talk to you about like the religious toleration within the party as it is, which is legitimate religious toleration. It's not like, oh, we say religious toleration, but what we're really saying is everything but Christianity. This is something a little bit more substantial here.
Yeah,
That's why it just seems to me just above and beyond the optics, which are just obviously what they are. That's just fundamental core policy issues that are even in line. So that's why I asked, like, so, must be a contemptuous arrogance to that, and there must also be people in the party who don't know Sargon day in from day out could be blindsided by this.
yeah. I mean, I actually met a guy. I think he was a councillor for Dartford. I think he is. I never got any sort of confirmation, but I suspect he is because he looked very similar to the guy who was, and I know he was there. And he thought, well, when we mentioned Sargon, he's like, oh, Sargon, he's really good. Then I showed him that video, and he's like, I can't believe I liked Sargon. And a lot of people will get blindsided because they just don't know this stuff.
Mm. So it's sort of
Yeah.
like a situation where it's like a Monet. From far away it looks great, but as you get closer, it becomes a big old mess.
Yeah, I mean, he seems superficially good. I mean, he's got great subscriber numbers. He looks like he's got good viewership, although he's lost 50% of his viewership in a year, or at
How's
least
that? How's that?
I don't know how he lost them. I think it might have something to do with just repeated abysmal debate performance. But uh, I mean, and also the fact the guy is becoming tired and just kind of declining. He's turning into the amazing atheist, basically.
Mm.
In more
Well,
ways.
yeah. I mean, we talked about on this podcast he independent of this move to UKIP, there was an attempt above and beyond Sargon's, some legitimately big people to have that Day for Freedom march, the freedom of speech march. How I don't remember how long ago it was. Let's say a couple months or a month and a half or something like that. And, yeah, exactly. And the turnout rate of that was 4,000, and that's with Sargon plus quite a bit of other people, including I think Raheem, what's his face from Breitbart, who actually is associated with at least the older generation of UKIP, and if collectively that's getting 5,000, one begs to ask the question: yeah, you have pretty good subscriber numbers, but will a significant enough portion actually contribute to the party above and beyond just some raw cash here?
Yeah, I think there's this delusion within the liberalists, and I've noticed this, that they think that their autistic memes will win the youth when they're only winning about 3% of the youth.
Yeah.
I mean, we can joke about autistic things till the end of the earth, but the thing is that 97% of the youth aren't watching you, and I don't think they're going to be watching him anytime soon because I think Sargon is declining.
This may be a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's related at least to the main message, because I understand, like, as we've kind of gone through, it's like there's a certain degree which what Sargon's doing is a joke, certain degree which it's malicious, and at least from my perspective, a clear degree that it's not going to work out the way he thinks it is. The next question is to say, what's if you don't mind going into it, what is the current view, to the extent of UKIP's plan to perform better, particularly among the youth? Like, if Sargon's not the path, and I don't even think he is, what are you guys currently thinking is the better way forward?
Well, I think we're going to reach out to other competent creators mostly. I think there's definitely a push for more university groups. There's one that's actually being constructed in London under the main guy is in Imperial College London. This is currently being constructed, and there are also other ones going on at other universities. But I mean, we're going to reach out to better content creators, ones that are actually have a modicum of intelligence, and we're going to be reaching out and building more university communities so we can reach out there. And that's basically it at this point. We're going to probably think of more stuff. In fact, we're definitely going to think of more stuff.
So I wanted to continue in a slightly different direction. So basically, you were the one who created this video, and you showed it to the UKIP leadership. And it's your contention that in this video, you wanted to show Sargon's actual words to the UKIP leadership so they would have a fair idea of who they were getting into bed with. And so far, the reaction has been fairly negative. Is that an accurate assessment of what we have so far?
Well, let's put it this way. No one's been celebrating it.
Okay. Let me ask you, what do you think would happen if Sargon were to continue in the party? Suppose that the UKIP leadership says, screw it. We're going to keep on with this man. We're going to continue with Sargon, Carl Benjamin, AKA, and we're just going to just move forward with this man. What do you think would happen in the press? How would the press react to this new member of the UKIP party?
Well, okay, I'd like the audience to perform a mental exercise with me. I want them to watch the video, and I want them to think and write down in front of them 10 potential headlines that might come up in The Guardian, or even the Daily Telegraph.
Could you write some for us right now, please?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, white N-word. UKIP accepts rampant racist. Okay, that's one. Another one could be UKIP so desperate they accept an usurper just because they need those members.
Okay. No. Well, I was thinking to myself, UKIP allies itself with racist YouTuber and anti-Semitic Scottish comedian. That sounds like something that you'd see in the Guardian. Now, isn't that right?
Yes, yes, it is something you'd see. Although I do think that it's a lot easier to laugh at the party and therefore degrade it if you go after the fact that the party is accepting a guy who thinks he can undermine it from the inside in public.
And who publicly states that he intends to undermine the leadership of the party and subvert it
Yeah.
and change it around. Okay, yeah. So in terms of like headline, do you think that UKIP would have the would they be able to support or stand the backlash from the mainstream media for accepting him as a member?
I'm not confident in its current state that it could, and I don't want it to go through the test to prove that.
How it, let's, for the sake of argument, say that the party makes that decision. You know what? We're going to go with these folks. How tenuous would your connection with the party be at that point? Like, do you think you could maintain? Did you have to leave? What would be the situation for you at that point?
Well, I mean, purely on policy, I don't think I could stay in a party that wants to kill Catholic schools. They are the
Because
lifeblood.
the Catholic and because Sargon has said that he wants to get rid of faith-based schools.
Yeah, yeah. I cannot, even though I do believe that UKIP is the only solution, I cannot, in good conscience, continue with a party that wants to destroy a bedrock of the Catholic community in this country. And I think, even in spite of that, I think I'd still probably leave anyway, because I don't want to be in a party that's media's run by people who are out of touch and are basically just a joke. Like, I could not, as media officer, in good conscience, work with people who are just unable to take anything seriously ever, and when they are laughing at things, they're laughing at it in a way that, quite frankly, 19 out of 20 people in this country would find just frankly fucking weird.
Offensive. I mean, from my point of view, I'm an old fart. I'm 50. I looked at those two ads and they seemed as if they were mocking UKIP. I could not believe that they were serious. I looked at them as ads that were just sort of like belittling not just UKIP, but also the very people who would join UKIP. There was at one point the Lucy Brown girl was mocking the accent. I don't know the regional accents of Great Britain, but mocking an accent of a working class fellow, and it just seemed as if they're mocking the very people that they are trying to ally themselves with. I mean, that's not how friends, that's not how political allies reach out to one another.
I mean, she mocks the working man of this country, but quite frankly, I think that every painter, scaffolder, and handyman in this country, every single one has more brain cells to rub together than this fucking bimbo, quite frankly.
Okay, well, leave that aside. I don't think that's very important to know about to debate that particular issue. But yeah, I mean, like, so to continue this exercise, what do you think the headline of which conservative paper really hates UKIP? The Telegraph? Torygraph?
I mean, I suppose. I mean, it varies with time.
Okay, so how would the Telegraph headline this new news of Sargon Dankula et al. Joining UKIP? How would they headline that?
Well, I'd say something like something maybe lead UKIP member associate makes a video mocking working class, or something like that.
Yeah. And how would Gerard Batten's position be affected by the fact that this newest member of UKIP is openly saying that he's gunning for his job?
Well, I think Gerard isn't under any threat anytime soon. I mean, Gerard is frankly he's far more intelligent than Sargon will ever hope to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has anything to worry about beyond just squishing a bug, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really my opinion on it. I don't think he has much to worry about, unless, and honestly, the numbers don't look like it, unless Sargon is able to get enough people in general meetings to shift the entire attitude of the entire country, which it seems kind of impossible because the official numbers suggest that we gained 616 new members that have been processed at least up to this point. Not the 10,000 in 12 hours that they said, because that actually confirmed by the student leader. Actually, that actually came from a woman who was apparently associated with the party, but he didn't know who she was. Apparently, she was kind of a nobody.
Okay, so what's the actual figure, and who's confirming this figure? What's the actual figure, first of all?
The party itself seems to be confirming 616 new members.
So Sargon of Akkad, that has 800,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, managed to convince 616 of those subscribers, i.e., less than 1 in 1,000, to join UKIP. And the dues are 20 pounds, 30 pounds, something like that?
It's £20 for under 22s and veterans, and it's £30 for other people.
For everybody else. Okay, so
Although
let's
I
split
would-
the difference
I
in
would-
25. Okay, so he
Although-
convinced 600 people to join. That's trivial.
I think it's something is necessary to add here. I think there may be some issues with processing, because I mean, if there is that many people coming in, like it's like 616 people to process in 3 days is actually quite a task. So it may just be that they haven't finished all the batches, but I honestly, I don't doubt it's much higher than that personally.
Okay. But how much higher?
I don't think it exceeds 1,000.
Okay, so 1,000 people join. Okay. The fact of the matter is, both Denkila and Sargon got their cards within the week. Okay, and they joined online just like any other schmo, right? And so one would think that all the other people who joined at the same time would have been processed at the same time, so it would have been all together. So you'd know at this point. So this number of 616 so far, where are you getting that figure? Just to know the background.
I think there was a post about it on Kipper Central. I'll try and find it for you, but it's definitely from within the party.
Okay. Now, this is my thinking. It seems as if Sargon and his crew are just simply brigading the party, right? That they decided, the UKIP party, it's just like an online forum, and all you have to do is just gather together a bunch of people and just go and brigade it and take it over. So long as you don't violate the TOS, you're golden. You can do whatever you want and push aside the community that was already there. It seems that that's their attitude. But of course, a political party is very different from like an online forum, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have checks and balances and like an actual command structure.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you something. Do you have any idea why Sargon and his liberalismist didn't prepare the groundwork insofar as UKIP leadership, i.e., why didn't they have meetings, informal meetings, quiet, discreet meetings over a period of weeks or perhaps even a couple of months of just getting to know one another, seeing what each could bring to the table, and making a clear negotiation, and eventually then deciding, okay, here's the big public announcement and everybody's smiling. Why do you think that there was none of that? Why do you think that it was so arbitrary and abrupt and they suddenly just decided, hey, we're going to join?
I don't know. I think it's because Sargon, frankly, doesn't really have a very good history of producing good ideas. And an example I will bring to the table is his association with Candid. Now, Candid was effectively an anti-freedom of speech platform. I think it was anyway. There was some sort of controversy surrounding it. I think it may have been that it was anonymous, but they were logging speech or something like that. And he continued to associate with this even after this was revealed, and actually led to Sargon throwing somebody under the bus, someone quite significant at the time whose name escapes me. But on top of that, I'd also add that these people are frankly a bunch of larpers.
I couldn't hear you there, Coach. Can you repeat?
I'm sorry, wasn't that Harmful Opinions?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. With the Candid thing, yeah. I mean, also expecting a bunch of larpers to create a functioning bureaucracy when they've never actually experienced real life politics before, I think is a little bit unreasonable.
So you were the one who created this video. You were the one who circulated this video to the leadership. You showed it to them in person, and they were fairly horrified by it, to the point where one of the senior leaders could not stomach watching the whole thing. He saw half of it, and half was enough for him to basically say, if I see the SOB in front of me, I'll take a swing at him. Basically,
I wouldn't go that far. I like.
Well,
David
no,
Curtin
I'm just exaggerating. Hyperbole.
I know
just
you're
for-
exaggerating, but David Curtin is an exceptionally nice man, and I mean, he's a lovely guy.
Well, for such a lovely guy to be upset about this, and such an easygoing individual to be upset about this, that says something now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it just sums up how bad Sargon just looks on his own channel.
From his own words, because nobody put words into his mouth.
Yeah,
These are words that he himself said, the attitudes that he himself expressed.
exactly. And it actually now it occurs to me, with the very first comment, it seems like it's been kind of cut up in a dishonest way. It wasn't. There was actually 8 seconds of white space before that, and I was trying my best to put it in context, but I couldn't. Sargon literally just randomly starts reading the stream chat, and he opens up with, well, the famous phrase.
Yeah. If I were running a party that, let's be honest, is a bit on the ropes and is not doing particularly well, either politically or financially, I could see the temptation of wanting to ally myself to somebody who might provide some sort of, life preserver, right?
Yeah,
You get a point that you can't, getting involved with somebody who appears in public dressed up in a way that you confuse him with a football hooligan, right? And who says language like what he said, with racial epithets, and who openly says that he's going to take over the party and get rid of, religious believers and change the entire platform to suit his own personal agenda, and who seeks to use the party for self-aggrandizement. I don't see how anybody sane would want to be associated with such a man.
Well, I mean, my thoughts exactly. That's why I did it.
Okay. So, what do you think is going to happen now? What's your thought process? What are you aiming for at this point?
Well, my absolute best case scenario, Sargon is just completely gone and never has any hope of coming anywhere near this party ever again.
And I take it that you're going to be trying to show the video with his words to as many members of the UKIP party as possible?
Oh yeah, I've emailed it to a bunch of MEPs and actually a lord who didn't show up for the pub lunch that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also sent it to some people in Young Independents and in the UKIP Students Association.
So, in short order, this video of Sargon's own words is going to be spread around the whole of the UKIP party. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes.
And you haven't gotten any reaction because of the time we're recording. It's rather late at night, and so everybody's going to sleep and what have you. But what do you think the reaction is going to be? As negative, or do you think that anybody will be able to brush it off?
I think that the reaction from the people who see it, I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw in real life. I think it's going to be uniformly negative.
And do you have any message that you'd like to send to Sargon of Akkad and his cabal?
Well, I'd like to say that, well, serious politics require serious people, and you aren't serious people. I think that you should start, if you want to actually change something in this country, which I honestly sincerely doubt, I think you need to start growing up. And I also think you need to, when someone comes to you and tries to help, treat them with a level of respect, because I mean, when I talked to Sargon, he wasn't particularly nice to me for no real discernible reason.
Okay, so you were there to talk to him, to help him join UKIP, and he treated you badly just because.
Well, I wanted to straighten out some issues I had with him, basically what I've said on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I got like some weird responses. Like he believed that I was ideologically gatekeeping, even though although I disagree with Sargon exceptionally strongly on many things. I mean, for example, faith.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with his ideas being in the party, provided that he doesn't try to undermine the party. So he was deliberately straw manning me in the private call with V. And he just continually got more and more angry at me, and I can't quite figure out why. I think it may be because I think he thought that I thought he was a little bit on the thick side, And
Is that an accurate assessment?
I mean, I certainly do now.
Okay.
But I just think if you're going to talk to somebody like that, I mean, I'm a small guy. I'm what, 400th of his size, roughly, off the top of my head. I mean, he didn't need to mistreat me. He could have just been, like a normal human to me, and it would have been fine. I mean, the guy kept me waiting for a couple of days before I could even talk to him. Initially, I received a message from V saying Sargon wants to talk to you. You need to email him. And well, first of all, if he wants to talk to me, he can email me because he wants something out of me. I don't offer my services before somebody who demands it. Like that's ridiculous. That's not how interactions between equals work. And I'm not about to bow to somebody just because he's got more subscribers than me. And then over time, I said, well, it's looking like Sargon's position is sticky because there were some emails that were leaked from Peter Whittle, I believe. I'm not sure I'm not sure how true those emails were. And I thought, well, I can help him out, and I can put in a good word, and if he actually listens to my criticism and does something about it. So I messaged him. I got put in a private Skype group. We had a time decided, and the first time he didn't show up. Just wasn't there. I said, okay, I'm ready, because I said I'd be a couple of hours before I could do it. I had to sort some stuff out, mostly because I'm moving into a new house, so I have to move boxes around, moving into house kind of stuff.
You have obligations to real world life that he needs to basically acquiesce to.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, but I'm not able to talk to people at any moment they desire. I actually have a life to live.
We all do.
So
Sure.
yeah, and he wasn't there at the agreed time, because my understanding from the chat was that, well, I said I'd take a couple of hours, and well, I mean, V said okay, which I assumed meant that he was fine with it. And then when I came back, I said, look, I can talk. Weren't there. And after that, I think it was a while. It's like, sorry, I was busy or something, and we organized a time. And to his credit, he showed up the second time, and immediately it got off to a bad foot, because he actually lied to my face, because a couple of days before he made the stream that I've actually cut up and quoted in that video, and he said to me, I don't have any interest in influencing the internals of the party. I'm only interested in showing a strong backing for your party. And it's like, I knew he was lying to my face at that point, because no one joins a political party to just show that I'm a big fan. I mean, they join so they can influence the internal policy.
Yeah, that's the whole point of joining a political party. Yeah.
Yeah, and I made that exceptionally clear to him, and he had absolutely no counter argument, because I knew he was lying through his teeth.
Yeah, because in the live stream he did with Kevin Logan, he said specifically that he intended to make drastic changes to the UKIP party.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't actually watched it at that point, but I have enough savvy to realize that no one joins a political party just to say that they like the party. They vote for parties when they do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been with the Conservatives, but I've never voted Conservative once, precisely because I didn't like the party, and then I left. And then things kind of went on, and it was largely me trying to get him to understand my criticisms of him. And like I said before, he was exceptionally rude. He said, well, you just want your party for your ideology. And it's like, well, no, I don't, because we have people like Bill Etheridge in the party who's very, very, very libertarian, and I disagree with on economics. But the man has earned his keep. He's a great asset to our party, and he's more than... I have no problem with him here. In fact, I think,
and there has to be a limit to Sargon's logic to a certain extent, because at that point, why can't a conservative just go to Labour and say, like, hey, why are you ideologically gatekeeping the Labour Party from Tory ideas? You know what I'm saying? There's a certain limit to what you can accept, as long as there's you have to accept some sort of core premises, and I just frankly don't see any core premises that he would acquiesce to, other than like I said, the general leaving of the EU style organizations.
Yeah, I mean, I could go and try and join the Communist Party, but I wouldn't blame the Trotskyist who was in control of the media for saying, trying to ideologically gatekeep. I mean,
that's the whole point. That's the whole point of a political party.
Exactly. It's just absurd, empty polemics, and that's what I said to him actually as we ended the call. But one thing that I found rather interesting, and this is sort of a divulgence which isn't necessarily related, is that we ended up talking about natural rights. And he believed that like it's said in the American Constitution that, well, is it the American Constitution or the Declaration of Independence? Regardless, doesn't matter. That we are given God, we have rights derived from our Creator. So I said, oh, so Sargon, you're a theist? Then it's like, no. And well, I mean, what else gave us our God-given rights? A bloody alien? I mean, what is our Creator beyond that? I can't actually conceive, because at the very basic level, that is deistic. So he's conceding a god at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and the fact that he can remain to be anti-theist while his ideas are firmly grounded in theism. Just, I mean, you open the second treatise on government and go to the second page and look at the amount of references to the Bible in it. This man is what he says, that this man is the foundation of his liberalism.
You're talking about Locke.
Yeah, John.
No,
Locke.
we're technically talking about Loki. Yes.
Sorry, Loki.
Oh, Loki. Oh, yeah, Loki. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he mentions this explicitly. He mentions Adam and Eve and such. Well, obviously Sargon thinks that's silly, but I mean, he's never read the book, so he wouldn't know.
What you're saying that Sargon of Akkad has not read Locke?
He would have to be. I mean, the fact that he missed the references to God on the second page isn't exactly encouraging. Either he is,
Yeah.
either he was bought from like a Sainsbury's vegetable counter, which I sincerely doubt, or he didn't read the book. I think it's probably the latter.
Okay.
Well, it's my conception of the matter is like, and I see it in his reading of a lot of texts, which are, he hasn't as much read the text as he's read certain interpretations and summaries of the text.
Yeah.
Because any book you
Cliff
read,
notes.
exactly, because any direct contact to these books, you will realize that there are complications and several different interpretations that you could read through them. I mean, the fact that he says, it's clear to me, he goes like, you should read Locke. You haven't read Locke. It's like, well, no, that's not the way you read someone. All you could say about Richard Spencer is that he has a different interpretation of Locke.
Yeah, I mean, we should call him Spark Notes of Akkad. I mean, he actually, to his credit, he backed back in the conversation like at 90 miles per hour when I started asking him about that, because I think he figured out by that point I might have read the book, which I have a little bit. I haven't finished it, but I know enough about the book to make that criticism.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting I just want to how can I put it? I'm very interested in what's happening, because what we're experiencing is power politics in real time. And let me just summarize what you've done, and you correct me if I'm wrong. You basically decided that Sargon was not the right sort for UKIP, and you went and created a video that used only his words, taken in full context, as to what sort of man he was and the potential danger that he was to the UKIP party. And you went and showed this video to all of the upper echelons of the party, and you've circulated it widely in the party, and it is being circulated as of right now. And so basically you are declaring that you think that Sargon of Akkad should not be a part of your party, and that you want him declared persona non grata in UKIP. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes, but I'd like to add on, just to emphasize the point, I deliberately included as much context as was appropriate, precisely because I don't want to lie about this man. If I didn't think he was a threat to the party, I wouldn't do anything, because he has brought people to his credit.
like Paul Joseph Watson has brought people, and you have no beef with him. Is that correct?
No. The man is very good at optics. I think he'd do great things for the party. I think.
You're talking about Paul Joseph Watson.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not talking about Sargon, obviously, but like Paul Joseph Watson, I think he could really be a credit to this party if used correctly.
Okay. But you think that Sargon of Akkad would be a definite liability to the party because of his avowed racism and his association with people who could easily be perceived as anti-Semitic and extremist and sexist and whatever else the yellow journalists want to print. Is that correct? Is that basically it?
I mean, I'm not sure I can say he's an avowed racist. And I'm not sure I can say he associates.
No. He could be portrayed as such.
He could be portrayed as such easily. I mean, it doesn't take much to do that. But I know for a fact that he really isn't. It's just the fact that he's.
But why does he keep using racist language like that so casually? I mean, there comes a point where you start to ask yourself, well, is he being ironic or sincere?
Yeah, I don't understand. I should actually, if I talk to him again, I should ask him that because I don't understand it myself.
Yeah, because it's, we're quoting the famous white N word quote that he used with what's his name, the Dutchman's name,
Michelle
Michelle.
Catlin.
Yeah, but he also used that racial epithet on the Ralph report just a couple of days ago.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So
Oh.
what's up with that? I mean, maybe let's face facts here. Sargon of Akkad keeps saying that he is one quarter black, but he keeps using racial epithets. Maybe he's just a racist, and he's just telling everybody that he's not a racist, but he uses the language so casually that maybe he is. He calls people that racial epithet. There is the recording with Michelle Catlin, where he's calling the entire chat the racial epithet in question. I mean, what's a guy supposed to think? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean, if you looked at him, you wouldn't guess he was a quarter black.
No, I've never heard of a person with blue eyes who's a quarter black. I didn't think that was genetically possible, but maybe I don't know.
I
Who
mean,
knows?
it's a recessive gene, and I think Africans generally have brown eyes.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So
that's
I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the point is, it just seems a little bit far fetched. But okay, let's grant that it doesn't matter. What's up with the use of the racial epithets to such an extent that people no longer know if you're being serious or sarcastic? I
I
mean,
don't know. I think he's trying to be edgy and appeal to the kids, but he doesn't. It doesn't work. it just makes him look like an idiot.
Well, here's the my
well,
trying to
no,
take
sorry,
on
sorry to interrupt, but it's not that it makes him look like an idiot. It makes him look like a racist to anybody normal. Any normie would listen to him and say he's a racist. He's a alt-right Nazi. That's what he sounds like. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, he certainly sounds like that. Yeah, I don't think I'd.
If it
I
walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then what else do you call it but a duck? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I in good conscience couldn't show normal people a lot of the stuff that he's made, like as an entertainment. It just doesn't work because they think like, who on earth is this, and why does he think he can say this?
My take on him is the same as my take on a lot of general libertarian attitudes that are still out there, which is it reminds me very much of an attitude you would have as a teenager in your early 20s, which is you get frustrated with people telling you what to do, and you get frustrated with anybody who has a suggestion as to what's right and wrong. Most people tend to grow out of that, some people don't. And I think all of the manifestations that you're kind of seeing as bad optics, the white N-word, what have you, or just, hey, when I take over the party, I'm going to do this. It comes across exactly like that attitude. You have that childish early adulthood thing, but you're not really prepared to be in charge. And frankly, the party needs people who are prepared to be in charge, and that's not present at this time.
Well,
Yeah.
people who show a modicum of political intelligence, just not even a lot of. I'm not talking political genius on the level of LBJ. I'm talking of just basic common sense here, of not saying that in front of 80 or 90,000 people that you plan on replacing the leader of the party that you've just joined, of not telling thousands of people racial epithets and then repeating them, over and over again, and constantly claiming that you're edgy when, it starts to make everybody normal think to themselves, well, he's a racist, I mean, he keeps saying that he's not alt-right, that he hates the alt-right, but he uses language that would fit right in with the KKK and, the white supremacists. So maybe he is one. Maybe we should send a tiki torch to Sargon of Akkad.
I mean, even the alt-right has more sense than that.
Yeah.
I mean, even the alt-right has a better sense of.
I have never heard Richard Spencer use the N-word. Have you?
No, I can't say I have. I mean, for all of the horrific stuff that's come out of the alt-right, I can't say that I've heard them act in such an egregious way.
No.
In such a politically just silly way.
Okay, well, we've gone on for an hour, and yeah, so it seems to me that that you're basically the David who's flinging stones at Goliath, and you seem to have nailed him pretty square between the eyes with this particular video. That's my opinion. Benway, what do you think?
I would say, to put it, don't take it the wrong way. I would say Sargon did most of the work himself. Just frankly, frankly, there to as it were, summarize.
It's like if Goliath walked up to David, like kneeled down and handed him a knife and told him to poke him in the eye. I mean,
I was telling Coach when he used the metaphor of David versus Goliath. It's like, yeah, Goliath shows up drunk and says, "I fight better when I've had a few."
Yeah. And so on that cheerful note, I think that we should call it a podcast. Mauritian, it's been a pleasure having you on. Dr. Benway, why don't you take us out?
Sure. Thanks, everybody, again for listening to an episode of the Coach and Benway podcast. I want to thank Mauritian Struggle for showing up here and talking about this topic. And Mauritian, I wish you luck going forward with the party. Hope it does, does better and continues to grow and successful on terms that are a little bit more serious.
I hope so. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.